Next up, on Ensemble Acting, Defying Gravity.
Wanderer in our skies, dazzle of silver on our leaves and in our waters silver. Silver evasion in our farthest thought, the visiting moon,
the glimpses of the moon,
and we have touched you.
Before the first of time,
before the first men tasted time,
we thought of you. You were a wonder to us,
unattainable, a longing past the reach of longing, a light beyond our light,
our lives,
perhaps a meaning to us. Oh, a meaning.
Defying Gravity is a look at the 1986 Challenger disaster. It interweaves the past with the present and draws parallels between painter Claude Monet, a teacher and first civilian astronaut, her grieving daughter, an elderly tourist, and an engineer who works for NASA.
During an exhibition of my work, I watched a woman scrutinize one of my paintings. She had her face so close to the canvas, I was afraid she would come away with paint fixed to the ends of her nose. I heard her say, "There are too many colors here. I have no idea what I'm looking at." I said to her, "If you step back, madame, you'll have a better view. This is a cathedral at Rouen." "I live in Rouen," she said, "but this isn't what it looks like. This is a cathedral at dawn. Perhaps you are still in bed." "No, I don't see it," she said. I was about to tell the woman she had as much perception as a slug when she stopped in front of a painting of the cathedral at dusk. She stared at it for a moment and said, "Yes, I recognize it now. You must be a very late sleeper," I said. Then she looked at me with terrible sadness in her eyes. "No, monsieur. This is the time of day I go to light a candle for my husband."
All right, honey, time for bed.
"I'm not tired. Would you put your crayons away, please?"
See what I did? I see, that's very pretty. Guess what it is? Is it a flower garden?
"No."
Water lilies? Clouds?
"No. It's spaghetti."
Oh, I see. Come on, kiddo, it's time for bed. The masons who laid the first stones could work an entire lifetime on the cathedral and never see it finished. Jason. Well, yes, that's true. Many of the workmen were killed on the job. Some of the workmen who died were then buried in the walls of the cathedral. It was considered an honor. But no, they were not buried alive. Heather, will you change the slide? Thank you. For a long time, you could only build to a certain height before the pull of gravity would cause the whole thing to collapse. But then, in the 13th century, they invented something called the flying buttress. It broadened the base of the cathedral so the walls could rise hundreds of feet into the air. People always thought that if you defied gravity, you were that much closer to God. Do you see the effect it had? Before the airplane, this was the closest we ever came to the experience of flight. Do you think it was worth it?
So I was adjusting a bunch of nitrogen deregulators, and one of the engineers turns up, hands me a chart, and tells me they've changed the specifications. Took me an hour to read the damn thing, but apparently they want the specifications back to the way they were 3 weeks ago. These guys don't know what the hell they're doing. Oh, and then I had to with security when... Excuse me?
"Excuse me, do you work for NASA?"
Yeah?
"We're here to see the launch. It's our first time."
Uh-huh.
"Where do you think the best place would be to see it?"
You are out by the highway.
"We're out by Cocoa Beach."
That should be fine. The skies are supposed to clear up.
"So what's your position with NASA?"
Ground crew.
"Do you know any of the astronauts? Do you know the teacher?"
Yes, I do. She's a very nice lady.
"I'd love to go into space, wouldn't you?" "I hear they're sending a telescope up."
Telescope? Well, yes. Actually, right after this launch, they're sending a telescope up in the sky that's 3,000 times more powerful than anything we ever had before. With a telescope this powerful, it'll be able to read the label on this bug from all the way out there. With a telescope this powerful, we're going to be able to see things we don't even know are there. Stars, galaxies, even planets, man. Some of these planets may even look a little bit like Earth. Some of them may even have life on them.
"Oh my, can you imagine? This is one fun time to be alive."
That's an understatement.
"We think what you people are doing is just wonderful. We'll be rooting for you."
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Can anyone tell me what a relic is? Patricia. That's right. A relic is a piece of the body of someone believed to be a saint. Well, my feeling is that most of the saints were ordinary people who happened to have been put in extraordinary situations. I think it's what people study them later on that turn them into saints. Can anyone think of a modern example of a relic? No? Well, remember when we took that trip down to the Air and Space Museum, and we stood in line to touch the moon rock? No. Well, how many of you are going to fly to the moon for your summer vacation? Anyone? No. Then how many of you know someone who has been to the moon? No. Well, why do you think that is? Because it's very hard to get there. All right, one last question. If it was possible, if you were told that there was one free seat left on a rocket going to the moon, how many of you would grab the chance to go? Yes. Yes.
The day my mother left, a reporter asked me what I thought of my mother going into space. I didn't want to answer, so I hid my face. My brother laughed at me and I hit him on the arm. My grandmother gave us lifesavers to quiet us down. I put mine in my pocket for later. Then my mother joined us. She let me hold her hand as she talked with the reporter. I felt very proud that I was one of the few people who was allowed to touch her hand. She showed the reporter some of the things she was taking into space. She had a journal, and in the journal was a bookmark that I had made for her. Then she showed the reporter something her class had given her. I was jealous and I wanted to give her something else, so I took out the lifesaver. It was fuzzy from the lining of my pocket. I tried to make it look presentable. I told myself I had to get all of the lint off of the lifesaver or my mother wouldn't come back. Then my mother crouched down next to me. She was wearing her blue spacesuit. She looked so beautiful. I touched the pads on her shoulders. My grandmother kept saying, "Say goodbye, honey, say goodbye to your mother." But all I could manage to do was to hold out the lifesaver. She took it and put it in her pocket, and I knew that everything would be okay.
Madame, whose house is?
Oh, thank you. Are we in space yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, what am I thinking? Everything would be floating by now, wouldn't it? You aren't floating, are you?
Only a time, madame.
Are you coming with us?
That's fine, yes.
Did you see this? My little girl made it.
Yes, it's quite lovely. Is it though?
Oh my God! I didn't see that she wrote her name. You don't know what a big thing this is for her. I've been trying to help her learn it, but she said she couldn't because I gave her a name with too many letters in it. She gets so frustrated she always tears up the paper. Oh, my sweet girl. I should have paid more attention when she gave it to me. I can't get out of this. Can you help me?
I will try, madame, but I'm afraid that I'm not very mechanical.
Please hurry. I need to get out of
I'm
here.
trying, madame.
I need to see my little girl.
I'm so sorry, but I cannot open the buckle.
God, will she ever forgive me?
Do not press back, madame.
T-minus 10, 9,
Do you think it'll actually go up this time?
6, 5,
Where are we supposed to be
4,
looking?
3, 2, 1. We have liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission and it is cleared the tower.
There it is, I see it. Oh my God, look at it. Oh, Ed, look at it go.
Houston, we have roll program.
Bravo roll, Challenger.
Isn't it beautiful? It's just beautiful. How did they do it? Oh my God, it's just magnificent.
Challenger, go with throttle up.
Roger, go with throttle up.
Was that supposed to be program?
1 minute 15 seconds, downrange velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles, downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Hey, all right? Oh my God. Oh, Ed, my God. Oh my God.
Flight controller here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously, this is a major malfunction.
Dear Elizabeth, I'm writing to you on behalf of the men that worked on Space Shuttle 51M. We all admired your mother and offer our sincerest condolences to you and your family. I volunteered to write this letter because I feel partly responsible for what happened. I don't know what you remember, but there were a lot of false starts before your mother's ship got off the ground. Some of these delays had to do with the weather, but one of these had to do with human error. This human error occurred on a day that would have been perfect for liftoff. The weather was clear and the sky was a pretty bright blue. It was as God had lifted up a manhole cover and said, "Aim here." Well, at T-minus 9 minutes, one of the engineers needed a drill to open up one of the hatches on the shuttle. But when they brought the drill over, they realized the batteries had been drained. Let me explain the situation. The day before, I used the drill to work on the door to my van. When I put it back, I left a note saying to the next person to change the batteries. But I'd taken the note from someone else's door, and I guess the sticky stuff had rubbed off and it didn't stick to the drill the way I wanted it to. I should have just changed the batteries myself, but that would have required me to grab a form, run over to another building, get it signed, and wait an hour, then have someone authorize me as I put the batteries in, and I was at the end of a 20-hour shift with another one in 5 hours. Instead, I went somewhere to wind down. It's a place many of us hung out with your mother and other astronauts. We all admired her, and the last thing we wanted to do was send her up in a ship that was going to fall apart. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to take your mommy away from you. She was a pioneer of our time who will live long in our memories as such. I hope that, like her, you pursue your dreams and do anything you've ever wanted to in this world. Sincerely yours, C.B. Williams and the men who worked on Space Shuttle 51L, Crew 679, Division 86, Crew K69999, Kennedy Space Center.
Apparently this is a good beach for scraps. This man told us that he used to come down here during the Mercury program when they were testing all those rockets. He said they're blowing up every other day. They fall in the ocean and the tide would bring them up right here. He said he'd come down here and pick up the pieces and bring them home and mount them on plaques. I thought it was a little strange, but it's like owning a little piece of history. You know what upsets me so much about what happened? It wasn't only the loss of our lives, but what makes me very sad is I now know I'll never take a trip to space. All those things that we thought were going to happen, they're out of our lifetime now. Did you find something? Let's see. Huh. No, it isn't anything. It's just a lifesaver.
When I watched my mother's ship take off, I saw it go straight into the sky and disappear. When my grandmother told me that my mother had gone to heaven, I thought that heaven was a part of outer space. I was excited because I thought she'd come back with all kinds of neat presents. I went to the mailbox every day waiting to get a postcard from her that would have clouds on it or a 3D picture of God. I waited for her to call long distance. When I didn't hear from her, I got very angry. I told my father that I hated my mother for being away for so long. He told me that she had perished in the rocket. I told him that that wasn't true, that my mother was still alive, that she had left us and found a family she liked better. My father asked me why I thought my mother was still alive, and I said because I never saw her dead. These are the reasons I gave myself for why my mother didn't come back. 1, I hit my brother on the arm. 2, I wouldn't talk to the reporters. 3, I didn't let my father hold me. And 4, I didn't get all the lint off of the lifesaver.
Forgetting? My mother was a wonderful gardener. When I was a little boy, I used to help her. I got the apple time for every snail I killed. Her favorite flowers were poppies. She told me, Claude, the secret to poppies is to plant them firmly in the ground and never waters them from above, or the flowers will be weighed down by the drops, which defeats the purpose of the poppy. Because the purpose of the poppy is to float on outside the clouds. They are nature's balloons. My mother died when I was 10. Her last words to me were, I love you, Claude. Don't forget the snails. After she died, I wouldn't have anything to do with her garden. In 2 weeks, the snails had everything down to the stems. I took great pains to punish myself for my neglect. I went to confession. I wouldn't take dessert. I offered to cut my father's toenails. But the next spring, the most wonderful perfume rose from the garden. It was my mother's scent. I felt my mother bending next to me, guiding my hand as I dug into the earth. And I felt her breath in my ear as she whispered, Claude, please, don't ever water the poppies from the ground.
T-minus 10 seconds and counting. No unexpected error. T-minus 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission and it has cleared the tower.
Yes, sir, we have a program.
Roger, roll, Challenger. Go look for on the left.
Oh, I have slipped the surly bogs of earth, and danced the skies on laughter's silvered wings. Sunward I climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung, high in the sunlit silence.
Hovering there, I've chased the shouting winds along, and flung my eager craft through
Footless halls of air.
Up, up through delirious burning blue, and I have topped windswept heights with easy grace.
Where never lark
Or even eagle flew.
and while with silence lifting mind,
I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space.
Put out my hand and touch the face of God.